we use the word, the word occupation doesn't mean a paid job. The word occupation means the activities that we do every day, how we occupy our time, how we occupy ourselves every day and every night. And the foundational tenet is that the use of our hands in engaging in occupation, we use in OT as both a goal and a treatment method. So we want our clients and our patients to be able to do a thing that they can't do right now, right? We want them to do a thing later. And in order to get them ready to be able to do that thing, that activity, we're going to use activities along the way as methods of intervention to get them to achieve that goal. So that's the use of what occupation means in this kind of setting. Keep that in mind, because the important part of that is hands as energized by mind and will. Before going on, I want to give tremendous credit for this content. A great deal of the content that I'm about to present is based on the work of Millie Smith, as discussed in the sensory learning kit that she wrote, and that is available at APH. If you don't have access to a sensory learning kit, I am not paid by them. I'm not paid by them to advertise, but if you don't have access to one, check with your Deafblind Project, see if they have one that you can borrow. Check with your OTs, see if they might have one that you can borrow, because it is highly, highly recommended. This is Millie Smith, and this is me. And I got to meet her because I got to take a class from her when I was working in the Deafblind program at Perkins. And my most prized possession is Millie Smith's phone number. And if my house ever catches on fire, that's what I'm taking with me. I'm getting Millie's number and running out the door. So I'll bring you to it. So, yeah, sensory learning kit. Class from Millie Smith changed my life and changed my work. So we've mentioned this before, but it keeps coming back. Children learn by having experiences. We know this already. We know that a baby's brain is smoother than an adult's brain and has fewer wrinkles on it, and it's experiences that cause new wrinkles to form in the brain. And if experiences cause new wrinkles to form in the brain, then what have experiences done to the brain structure? They have changed the structure of the brain. Think about that. That's a big deal. It's not just change how you think, but experience actually changes the structure of the brain. When you did your signature with your dominant hand 1,000,000 times so that today you could do it like that automatically, even with your eyes shut, that is because the repetition over and over has changed your brain and made a collection of neurons in a particular sequence that makes that movement very easy and automatic for you. Experience changes the structure of the brain. So, repeating the motor activity over and over again makes these pathways form, and as they form, they become, your movement to produce the skill becomes more efficient and more accurate. Okay, that's super important. That is, it's not the thing, but it's a really important thing. I know I said this. I know that the horse is dead, that children learn by having experiences. How do children not learn? They do not learn by having their body parts passively moved through some motions. They don't learn that way. There is a place for passive movement in our work. There's a place for it, but it is not in teaching a skill. The place for passive movement is to stretch muscles so that they don't get stuck. A child who has cerebral palsy might be really stuck in flexion. So we, with the physical therapist and OT's assistance, we might learn to stretch them gently. That is a passive stretch. That is not passively moving body parts through a skill, because the child must actively participate in order to learn. And it is that active participation that changes not the hands, but the brain. So I want you to look at this, and I want to tell a little story about this. So down here, so there's a difference between passive stretch and passive movement. So this fellow down here, he's about 16 years old, and he's deafblind and has cerebral palsy. And this is his physical therapist, and he has not full elbow extension. His elbow extension is about to here. And so she is stretching him passively so that he doesn't remain stuck in this position, okay? So she's doing some stretching. She is not teaching him a skill. So this is passive stretch that's happening to this young man's elbow joint. And the purpose of that is so he doesn't get contractures and make it impossible to move that segment of the body. But the purpose of passively moving a child's body parts through a skill is to teach them the skill, right? But it doesn't work. Now, this young lady, I think she's about 16, has been given hand-over-hand assistance to do activities for quite a long time. And when I arrived on this campus, and she is deafblind, when I arrived on this campus, I was told by her teacher, she doesn't do anything. She is so stubborn. I don't know why you want to take her to OT. She's not going to do anything for you. Because she's stubborn and she's uncooperative. And if you try to help her to do something, she just pulls her hands away. So it's kind of a waste of time for you to take her, but I'll get her out of my classroom for an hour or so. So you might as well take her on to OT. So she had been, she's stubborn like that, she had been assisted using hand over hand for most of her life in school. And she wasn't having any more of it. So what do you think happens if you cannot see or hear a person coming and I'm not going to do it to anyone, but they grab your hand. You cannot see or hear them coming and they grab you. What is the first thing you're going to do? Pull away. You're going to pull away and you're going to hide those hands and pull them as close to you as you can, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what they're going to do to you. And it might be unpleasant, and so you pull away. And then they say that you're stubborn. So, hand over hand is the way we all got taught to teach motor skills. We were all taught that, but when you know better, then you do better. And now we know better. So, but what we usually, we're not going to do this hand over hand practice today. What we usually do is the grown-ups, oh, I forgot. I have props. You're there. I have props. I have a top hand and a bottom hand. Okay. So, what we usually do is the adult's hand goes on top of the child's hand, and we move it around. Okay? Yeah. We move it around. And we say you're going to get the peg, and you're going to pick it up, and you're going to put it over here in this bucket, and then you're going to get another one, and you're going to pick it up, and put it in this bucket. So that's kind of what we usually do when we use hand over hand. The adult's hand is on top. We are moving the child's hand passively through a skill. Is the child learning anything? No. And why are they not learning anything? Because their brain isn't working. Whose brain is working? The grown-up's brain is working. So the child, if learning takes place in the brain, and we are depriving the child of the opportunity to actively participate, their brain isn't changing, and so they're not learning anything. I know, right? So I'm not going to make you do this because I know you can all imagine it. And I want you to have a more positive experience. But there are other settings in which we terrorize and torment the class participants and have them do we're really ugly to them, and we do hand over hand with them, and it makes them crazy. And then we teach them the right way. But I think you can imagine the wrong way. So I'm not going to make you practice that. But it's the adult's brain that's doing all the work. So this is real life. This is a really and truly, a real true goal that I found when I first started working with this student, who was about 16. And the setting was pre-vocational. This was his pre-voc goal. Jamie, well, no, it's not his real name, will pick up the empty soda can and drop it into the recycling bin in 7 out of 10 times when given hand-over-hand assistance. Okay, so I'm just going to say you should note that this goal has 5 different skills in it. Reach, grasp, lift, carry, and release to target. Okay, it's got 5 skills in it, but it's hand over hand. And so is the student going to meet the goal?
No.
Yeah, he is going to meet it because anybody can do anything with hand over hand assistance. Heck, I could probably play the violin. I can't do. But if you know that this child's primary repetitive motor pattern is this, he would do it all day. He likes to do it. He'll do it all day. He'll do this. This is why he can't straighten out his elbows, because he spends all day doing this. His hands are fisted. You think he has any interest in picking up a soda can? No, he doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about that. But they want him to do 5 things, okay, with hand-over-hand assistance. And he's going to meet the goal because anybody can do anything with hand over hand. Will he learn anything? No, he's not. I'm sorry. He's not going to learn a gosh darn thing. He's not going to learn anything, but he'll meet the goal, and that looks good for our statistics. And the reason he doesn't learn anything is because the adult's brain is doing all the work. His brain's not doing anything. He's just going for a ride. Okay, but he achieves the goal because it's hand over hand. So next year, go into the IEP meeting and we say, Mom and Dad, you'll be so proud of Jamie. He achieved his pre-vote goal. He achieved it. He can put the soda can in the recycle bin with hand over hand. And so we're going to decrease the level of assistance this year. We're going to, make him get more independent with it. So we're going to give him max assist to do the same thing, all 5 of those steps. We're going to give him max assist, which is a little step down from hand over hand. And he's going to do the same thing with max assist. So in max assist, he is expected to perform up to 25% of the task. Up to 25. That means he can do 10 and be okay. So is he going to achieve that goal with max assist?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yes, maybe not, or both correct. I think there's a good chance he will, because for these 2 reasons. And he actually did. Because what we also know about Jamie, as they told me, he doesn't like to touch things. He doesn't like to hold anything in his hand. He likes to do this. He just likes to do that. But if he doesn't, I don't have an empty one, I wish I did. if he doesn't like to hold things in his hands, and you put a, thank you, you got an empty. He doesn't like to hold things in his hands, but you stick the soda can in his hand, and he goes and releases it. If you pull his arm over the target and he releases it, then he's done one of the things. And so he can probably achieve the max assist, level. And pretty much anybody can do anything with max assist. Pretty much anybody can do anything, but I might could play the violin. And it's still the adult's brain that's doing all the work. So he achieves the goal. So next year, this is where it gets dicey. So the third year now, we're going to increase the difficulty level of that goal by saying, now Jamie's going to do all this sequence of steps with moderate assistance, which is another step towards independence from max A. So not doing max A, now we're doing mod A. Mod A means about 50%. So he's expected to do between 25 and 50% in the test. And is he going to achieve that goal?
No.
Not on your life. He's not going to, because exactly, he hasn't learned anything. He hasn't learned anything the last 2 years because the grown-up's been pushing his hand around. So he hasn't learned anything. There's no changes in his brain. His brain hasn't created the structural pathways, the neuronal pathways for him to be able to do that task. And then, so what happens if he does not, oh, he didn't meet the goal. Oh, we're in the IEP meeting. Oh, mom and dad. Or, Jamie, he's really fallen down in pre-vote. He started off pretty well. He was making progress. The last 2 years, he made progress. But now I think he's kind of plateaued. He just doesn't try anymore. You know what I'm saying? I think he's just gotten lazy. He's sort of lazy. And so we're going to drop him from pre-voc services because he isn't making progress. And then this is where you all scream, no! No, don't let this happen. So what happens is we blame the student, and we go, thank you, yeah, right. We blame the student, and we blame, there might be something going on at home that would explain his lack of interest and lack of enthusiasm for this class. And so we blame the student and we blame the parents, but it's not their fault because it's our fault. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was there. So it's our fault because we goofed up. We wrote a goal way outside the student's zone of proximal development, which we'll talk about more, and we started with a really complex skill. We forgot about the importance of active participation, which is necessary for learning to take place, because the grown-up's brain was doing all the work until we made the task so hard that by eliminating support, that the child had no chance of doing it because we not created the foundation. We hadn't set the foundation. But here's the thing. We didn't know that preparation and initiation are the phases of intentional movement that have the highest level of cortical brain activity. This is the thing. This is the thing that when you know it, will completely change the way you work with children. Preparation and initiation are the phases of intentional movement that have the highest level of brain activity. What is that? So you don't have to know this man's name, you don't have to read this whole slide. All you have to know is that research in neurology using brain imaging techniques, they discovered this thing that they named readiness potential. And that readiness potential in the brain is a measure of neural activity in the brain that precedes movement. It goes before movement. And what they learned was that, it's called event-related brain potential research. You don't have to know that name. Bless you. They learned that there are 4 stages of every motor event. They are preparation, initiation, execution, and termination. And you can read all about this in the Sensory Learning Kit by Millie Smith. Ladies and gentlemen, preparation is the idea about moving. It's having an idea that you might move. It's thinking about moving. It's not moving. It's just having an idea about moving. That is preparation. It's the intent to move. And it has the highest level of brain activity in any of the 4 phases of intentional movement. The sad thing for us, and all of our students, no matter how medically complex, no matter how motor impaired, no matter how sensory impaired, whether vision and hearing and or all the other systems, all of our kids can do that. They can all have an idea about moving. They can all do it. The sad part for us as people who write goals is that we cannot see it. And we have to be able to observe, right? In order for, the goal has to be observable. And we can't see it. You might see it in a little twinkle in the eye, but it isn't consistent enough to be able to call it measurable. So we can't put it in a goal. But you can see this. You can see initiation of movement, which has the 2nd highest level of brain activity after preparation. You can see initiation of movement. You can see this. You can see my shoulder initiate movement. Maybe you want me to do this, but the first thing I have to do is that, right? With me? Okay. And this is what Millie Smith says. If a learner can intentionally tense a muscle, blink an eye, open or close a mouth or hand, even a little bit, lean a head forward or backward, or extend an arm or a leg even a tiny bit, he can initiate. And we can see it and we can feel it if we have made our hands become sensitive enough. And if you can see it and feel it, then it is observable. And it is worthy of goal writing. I was shocked to learn from Millie Smith, that in the 3rd phase of intentional movement is execution. And that's like actually performing the task. That's like doing the thing. It's putting the ring on the stand. It's opening the plastic egg, shaking the plastic egg, hearing something inside, opening it up and pouring out the rice. That's the, that's the execution of the movement. But we don't have fireworks anymore symbolizing this. Now we're down to some candles. So brain activity drops during execution of that movement. And then the termination of the movement, brain activity falls way down. We're processing feedback at the end of the action. And I was very surprised that brain activity is very quiet, down to 1 candle at that time. And this information changed my life. And I was sitting, I'll go back there. I was sitting next to another OT who was new to that particular, she was not a new OT, but she was new to that particular practice setting. And we were sitting next to each other going, oh my gosh, I have to change all my kids' goals. Oh my gosh, no wonder, so-and-so didn't make progress for the last 4 years before I came here, of course. But we're like, this changes everything. It changes everything about the way we work. Because instead of looking at and demanding a full-blown skill from a child who's nowhere near able to do that, do you think my friend who does this all the time can do all those 5? No, he can't do all those 5 steps. It was not anywhere near to his ability to do the next kind of step. So we realized that we can access, and Millie shared with us, we can access preparation and initiation and build them. We can build them. All our kids can do it, and we can start there and build out a higher level skill goal. So it is both good news and bad news. It is good news that the first 2 phases of intentional movement are things that children, even those who have very multiple complex disabilities with great needs for support, it is something that they can do, and that's great. But we usually write goals and objectives at a much higher skill level than that, and then we go and instruct using hand over hand, so our brains are working and theirs are not, and so they don't really have a chance. So I was never going to get Prevoke to change that goal. But there is an alternative, and I went with the alternative. So what happened when when Jacob was doing that goal with all of the different 5 steps with hand over hand, that was fine until we got to mod assist. And then he stopped achieving it, and then everybody wants to discharge him from service because he's not making any progress. So what do we have to do to help them achieve their goals and have happy IEP meetings that are real? I'm not saying play with your words to make an IEP meeting just be happy, but show actual functional progress that the child has made at the level at which they can make it, and then make the next step and the next step. Okay, I'm not suggesting anybody cheat at IEPs, but so first we have to write goals and objectives they can actually achieve. We have to look at how we're assessing, and then we have to use hand under hand to provide instruction. So it's the child's brain that's working, and so they're changing their brain by learning. So what does it look like? Those of you who do hand under hand, can you show us what it looks like? Yeah.
Start at the help.
Yeah. So yeah, that's right. So remember the grown-up's hand before was on top, hand over hand. The grown-up's hand in green is on top, pushing the child's hand around. Hand underhand is when the grown-up's hand is underneath the child's hand, and the child is allowed to pull away. They probably will, pull away, and that's okay. You respect that bit of nonverbal communication. It doesn't mean you give up. You might invite a little farther out. You might invite a little higher up. Okay? But it's an invitation to explore together rather than a forced movement. And we do have, so the child is free to pull away, you invite, you explore together, you respect that. Oh, okay. And as you go along, as the child gets more interested in doing whatever the activity is, you may be able to slide your hand out from under the child's hand altogether, so the child is squishing the squishy ball, or squeezing the Beanie Baby, or whatever it is you want them to do. Yes.
So I use hand over hand with one of mine who's very multiple disabled. But what do you do when all I want to do is just like slap and stuff? Like she can
Oh,
move her
I'm gonna
hand and
show
stuff,
you.
but she likes to slap
show you.
Okay.
There's a video about that. You're gonna turn that into a conversation.
Yeah.
You already turned it into a conversation?
With the child?
Yeah.
Well, she's completely nonverbal while we're coming together.
I am so with you. I have the video that is gonna change your life.
Okay, good.
I'm gonna change your life. The video's not. So, all right. AV section.
Yes.
I'm gonna try to run a video. So, I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to run a video. We had some successes and some failures yesterday during our tech run-through, but everybody, raise the cone of power and send your positive energy to the technology gods. See what we can do. So what does it look like? Just get a Does it look like? Hold on. Nobody panic.
How do we get her to use her hand? Don't grab for her hand, instead touch her arm.
Is she on a residence board?
It looks like she is.
But how do we get her to use her hands? Use your hand under her hand. Wait for her to reach for your hand. Waiting helps children become active learners.
Oh no, if I do that, everything will have to go.
You can close the tab at the top.
First, we offer overnight boarding. Your pet will stay overnight in your sitter's home, and not only do you treat it like part of the family, but
No, I don't, I'm sorry, you're on precious. You can't do that. But I don't have. Wait, I'm gonna have to make it smaller.
Go up top, Kate, to where the tab is, and then close out the tab.
Autumn jazz on the cozy.
That one? Yeah.
Oh, thank you. She's so wonderful. Now, this is one, that I think is on the website of the Washington Deadline
Yes, yes.
Project. I think that's Washington.
Washington.
The next one is me, it's actually my hand, working with a young man who has CHARGE syndrome and who is in Vivo. He's working on left to right. So there is a use for a rainbow reacher, for those who think rainbow reachers are a waste of time and silly. He is working on left to right, and he is also working on shoulder mobility, because he's kind of like this all the time, so we're working on moving his shoulder and keeping that flexible. You will see that my hand has dark green nail polish on it, so that's how you can tell which is which. This is a young man who spends, if he is not actively engaged in something, hitting himself in the forehead and has hit himself in one eye to the point where he became completely blind in one of the eyes that he did his repetitive behavior with. And so if he's not actively engaged in something, he's hit himself and hurting himself. And why might he be doing that? Because his proprioceptive system can't be sold for a handful of magic beans. And so he has to feel where his body is. Right? Right? He's not bad. He's not naughty. He doesn't engage himself in various behavior. That has to be exterminated. You know? He does this to find his hand in his head. It's like it's there. It's a tool he can use.
Here, let's look at it together. Let's look at it together and see what's over here. Oh, it's purple. Yeah, nice job. Bring it all the way to the other side. All the way. Yeah, that was wonderful. Let's get more. Good job. Can you find another?
I get away fast.
Yeah, you were right. You were right.
He started to approach it and then second guessed himself.
Left to right.
All himself, it's all himself.
Left to right.
A twofer.
Right.
I love both of those videos. And you can see the adult, you saw in the first one, the adult not even approaching the hand, but going for the upper arm and the elbow and waiting, that wait time, respecting the child when she pulls away, respecting the child's nonverbal communications signal that she didn't want to do it right then. Yes?
I'm curious if we're gonna talk more about a little older kids who may have been conditioned to not pull away.
Yes.
Okay.
Like been conditioned
Who may
To
have
not
been
pull away?
like previously been hand over hand or, and then because they are sweetie babies, you can take their hand and they might not pull away because they've not
Okay,
been allowed
okay,
to.
okay. They've not been allowed to pull away?
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
if in the past that autonomy hasn't been respected, how
Yeah.
to,
Well, the teenage girl
okay,
who was like this?
yes.
Yeah, that's all true. That's all true. And how did I get it? And we'll talk more about her both today and tomorrow. How did I get there with her was by this. It also helps if you can figure out what they think is silly.
And building a relationship with them.
Question? Comment?
And building a relationship, a trusting communication partner.
We have a whole section about that. Thank you. Say it louder so the people in the cheap seats can hear.
It helps to also build a trusting communication partner relationship.
A trusting communication partner, to have trust and mutual respect for one another. That means we have to have it for the child. If we want to have it from the child, we have to have it for the child. Yes, thank you. Thank you. So here's what we did. I realized that after some conversations that I was never gonna get that pre-vote goal to change. And so what I was gonna do in OT was back up and use what I learned from Millie Smith about initiation. I mean, it was evident that everything was hand over hand for this young man. He wasn't learning anything, and eventually he'd be dropped. So I changed his goal. Oh, well, I didn't change his goal. I gave him an OT goal of this. Given hand-under-hand facilitation, Jamie will initiate reach. Initiate reach. You can see it. It's observable, right? So it counts. He will initiate reach towards a cause and effect toy as evidenced by observable muscle activation. And I don't care which arm he reaches with. It could be right or left. I don't care. I just want to see activation in the shoulder, okay? And is he going to achieve that goal? Yes, he is, because whose brain is working? His brain is working at the second highest level of cortical activity in intentional movement. And I'm going to teach him that doing hand under hand. We're going to talk more about this tomorrow. We're going to actually do a goal writing section where you get to practice writing some goals that maybe are imaginary, or hopefully will be for some children that you actually know. But I want to tell you that this young man, this is the same one who was getting his elbow, stretched out before and looked miserable. Look at his expression now. He is super happy. He feels, I'm guessing that by his expression, that he feels competent, because and after establishing that relationship based on mutual respect and trust, and using hand under hand, and working within his zone of proximal development, which we'll talk more about tomorrow when we talk about goals, some more. He learned not only to initiate, and this is over time, he learned not only to initiate reach, but to reach all the way to midline, put his hand on, the toy was it's a little contraption. There's a dome, a clear dome on top. The dome has glitter in it, and when you press on it, it makes music. It plays the Coca-Cola song. I'd like to teach the world to sing perfect harmony. Anyway, he loved music, and he eventually learned to not only initiate reach, but to, remember, he doesn't like to touch things. Put his hand on that dome, locate it, put his hand on it, and apply the right amount of pressure to activate the song and the glitter up and around, all around. This picture was taken the day that he figured, that the day that he tested force. And it was so clear what he was doing. He'd press a little bit and it wouldn't go on. And then he'd press and it would go on and he'd laugh. And then he'd press a little longer and it would go on and he'd have a big laugh. And you could just see the wheels turning in his brain, that he was testing out, how hard do I have to push to get the action that I want to have happen. So we were going, the reason we did this is that we were going towards being able to press a communication switch, being able to press a Big Mac. But he wanted to do this all the time. He didn't want to be pressing that Big Mac switch. And so we had to first get him open from here. We had to get him to open and do, pronation and supination of his forearm and apply the right amount of pressure, because you've got to apply the right amount of pressure in the Big Mac, right? So not only did he learned to do all that independently, he learned to do it without, yes, I used hand under hand at the beginning, but eventually he learned to do it independently. And you can see how proud he looks. because that was the wrong one. Right, this is the right one. Okay, and this gal, this young lady, she was the one who I was told was lazy and stubborn and would not do it. She will not do anything. We used hand-under-hand facilitation. She is the one that you want to think about that had hand over hand so long that she might let you take her hand, but she wasn't really paying attention, and her brain was not working, except that, she might voice opposition. Make an unpleasant sound. She learned, she was 16, she learned to make choices about activities, to pick up, orient the right way, and put plastic coins in a slot in the piggy bank. She learned to pick up, orient the right way, and place craft sticks into a plastic bottle, like into a soda bottle. You can't put them in that way, you gotta put them in the vertical way. And then from that, in Prevost, learn to pick up flowers on flower stems, orient them and put them in a vase. And then they would take the flower arrangements to the nursing home nearby. She learned to do that. And she learned to stack blocks. She learned to string beads, do bilateral hand activities. And in the end, she was able to use a reacher to pick toys up off the floor. The girl who won't do anything. Why did she learn to do those things? She used her brain. Yes, that's right. You in the front? She used her brain because by using hand under hand, she was invited to explore, not forced to perform. And then she found the exploring interesting and satisfying. And she became really motivated to do things. And if I can, I'm going to show you a little video of her. But by the time I get the video, see, I'm trying to facilitate and use the little camera at the same time, and so it's not the prettiest video. But by this time, we had first developed a relationship based on mutual respect and trust. She knew I wasn't going to force her hands anymore, and she was willing to participate. Takes it away from me. I didn't have to help her find it that time. She found it herself. You better orient that thing. Did you see in that very last one how she had it in the wrong position at first, and then she fixed it? That's motor learning. That's how she gets better and better at it. The next time she's going to do it, she will be more efficient and more accurate with doing that movement, the more practice that she gets. So there are really big implications for how we use our hands in working with children. And because we have all agreed that when we force their hands using hand over hand, they don't learn anything because nothing changes in their brain, right? And so We have to learn to use our hands differently to use our hands in a way that invites rather than demands. I invite, this is a cool thing, let's check it out together. It's a cool thing, it's a cool texture, it's a cool object. Let's check it out together. And I'll wait until you're ready. And you might look at it with me with your hands just a little bit, and that's okay. You might want to look at it a little bit more, or you might want to look at it with a different, with your elbow, or with a different part. We also have to learn how much force to use, and that is absolute minimal force. We cannot be pushing children's hands to do things because then our brains are working and theirs are not. We have to use minimal force. Pacing, I think, is critical. We have to totally slow down, which is so difficult in today's world where, you have to see so many kids in a day, and, the bell rings and you have progress reports to do and all of the many demands that teachers and therapists and EI people have. There are many, many demands. But in the interaction with the child, we have to make ourselves slow down so that we can be attentive to their nonverbal signals.